Hey, what's up guys? My name is Andrew Silva and today I wanted to discuss the highs and lows of Capcom's latest entry in the Marvel vs series. First off, I just want to say I held off on releasing this video until after EVO in case some of my concerns were made redundant in the Capcom panel. Unfortunately, Capcom cancelled their panel, probably to reveal more at the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con. However, this does open up the opportunity to discuss some key talking points. I'm going to be focusing on the game as a whole, rather than just the aesthetics or any of the controversy, as there is a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to start with the gameplay, as there are potentially some things I feel could be problematic as the game evolves. I want to start with the negatives before moving on to the positives, to give a clear picture. Just as a heads up, I will be discussing the PS4 story demo, which is subject to change. However, this doesn't mean it will. So let's address these issues. Tech rolls are too big. In a game that is doing away with one-touch kills, knockdowns will be pivotal in maintaining offense. Currently the distance of tech rolls are too large, and this is bad in a number of ways. At almost a third of the screen, tech rolls are simply too large. Back-teching mid-screen will almost certainly corner you, while forward-teching will simply get you out for free if your opponent isn't looking for it. While defenders shouldn't be defenseless on wake up, guys on offense shouldn't be castrated by tech rolls. If you forward tech and your opponent is looking for a back tech, then you are completely out for free, and vice versa. To prevent a defensive meta being enforced, tech rolls should be adjusted to promote a healthy meta game, and kinda like Goldilocks, they need to be not too big, not too small, just right. Red health currently recovers an absurd rate, and you get a lot of it. MVCI is set to be tag heavy and with a number of ways to tag safely. With happy birthdays meaning less, the current recovery rate is almost too high. You can pretty much recover almost all of it after landing a successful combo or after a few seconds of runaway. This attracts heavily from offensive players, as the ability to counter tag mid-combo means that characters will sit on a lot of red health during the game, especially if you fail to kill them off quickly. Raw tags aren't as punishable either, since you can cancel the initial entry with directional inputs. All of this leads to a defensive metagame, as slowly chipping away your opponent means they have less red health to recover than the huge amount you get from combos. There is a simple fix though. A slight adjustment to the recovery rate and the amount of red health you receive could mean defending players think more carefully about the next tag, but isn't in immediate danger of losing because they got hit with a combo. Snapbacks have been an integral part of the Marvel vs series since their introduction. It allowed players to identify problem characters and provided a way to attack them directly at the cost of a meter. Also, snapping in characters removed red health, so it could have allowed players to capitalize on characters with a lot of red health and remove all of it, especially if you punished an assist heavily. Additionally, it gave you the ability to throw opposing team synergy by disrupting the order in which they enter the match. This potentially messed up DHCs or specific combos, and even the way that assists were called. With its removal, you no longer have the ability to capitalize on these situations. Also, with the current rate of red health recovery, you can't punish teams as hard for poorly timing tags or getting picked up in a combo, as they can tag out and recover quickly before re-entering the fray. This also detracts from the depth of the game, as it removes some of the unpredictability that occurs within the game and is synonymous with the Versus series. So initially, Combo Fiend has been selling auto combos as set specific damage, but it's not too high with limited potential. In his own words, it's always the same, right? Same predictable damage, same positioning, nothing too crazy. Except it actually is. Being able to tag off an auto combo means I can confirm big damage of an auto combo. I could potentially follow up with another auto combo for some solid damage, or I could use it to set up a more damaging follow-up, even using it to map out tricky resets using this tag functionality, especially with characters that use hit grabs like Ultron and Miss Marvel, since the heavy version of these grabs causes a wall bounce which can be followed up. However, there is an easy fix: prevent tagging of auto combos, and the mechanic can be used for what it's meant to be: predictable damage that gives an indication into the game's potential. Since MVC2, mobility in Marvel games has been a hallmark of skill. MVC2 legend, Izuniy Yipes, was renowned for his mobility in the game, and it was this strength that made his MSP team the most feared. Marvel 3 introduced blink dashing, which was a marked improvement on traditional wave dashes, and it meant that faster dashes allowed for more freedom of movement, opening up offensive and defensive capabilities. With the reduction to dash speed, this creates a situation that nerfs both offense and defense because it limits the ability to create space. Overall, this is more of a talking point to be aware of rather than something to heavily criticize. Yes, mobility has been neutered, but not hampered. You can still wave dash, but you have to time it more carefully. And blink dashing is still possible, albeit only in the air for certain fly characters. Low tags have always formed a crucial part of offense in Marvel, as a way to create high and low mix-ups and a way to prevent mindless chicken blocking, aka air guards. Lows in MVCI currently appear to be a minimum of 4 frames and cannot be chained into other light attacks. For example, you cannot perform a chain from a low short into a low jab or another low short. You can only perform a jab into low short or a low short into another heavy normal like fierce or roundhouse. This makes chicken guarding stronger, as you can just up back after blocking a low short and can easily react to stuttered strings with the lows being slower. In a lot of ways, this really hampers offensive players, especially in the ability to chain low shorts. While lows don't need to be faster, they do need to be able to chain into themselves and jabs, as it keeps defending players more honest. Whilst having slower lows is generally fine because it means offensive players can't mindlessly rush down and force guesses. So my final point from the negative aspects of gameplay is that stone usage doesn't grant much stone gauge. This is slightly problematic because it creates a tier list of stones almost immediately, giving a lot of leverage to stones, with a better use in neutral compared to stones like the power stone, which is better in combos and thus reduces its relevance. This ultimately makes it harder to achieve infinite storm without taking damage, and also takes neutral control from stones that may be better with setups or combo based stones. A little more increase on gauge for the more passive stones like space and power when used successfully would help to adjust the balance of the stones rather than creating 1 or 2 stones that are clearly better than their counterparts due to their neutral viability. So now we talked about the questionable aspects of gameplay. Let's move on to the game's stronger aspects. So this actually means more than it sounds. MVCI's combo system feels quite similar to Marvel 2, and not just because of the return of a 4-button layout, but also as it currently stands, more characters can OTG, and more specials and supers cause hard knockdowns. The tag system also adds layers to the combo system, turning previously useless moves into confirms and combo follow-ups. MVCI will be a game that will give all the combo enthusiasts a lot to explore, and unlike previous Marvel iterations, MVCI will not require characters to have fluent air combos for them to have high damage potential. The game is already showing there are a lot of high damaging combos that are fully grounded, whilst opening the door for characters like Ryu, Mega Man, Spencer and Captain America to have complex strings and damaging combos. I am personally looking forward to a full release so I can actually explore all of the various possibilities. Theory crafters must be foaming at the mouth because of the Infinity Stones finally doing something that assists couldn't, and that is to influence matchups in a positive way. While assists were generally polarizing in that they tended to give good characters an even bigger advantage, stones however appear to offer answers to characters' deficiency. Your character lacks mobility, Time Stone gives you a dash. Character needs a projectile, Reality Stone has you covered. Character needs a combo extender, Power Stone gives you more combo potential and can offer more damage. The Infinity Stones offer so much versatility to an already versatile game. The potential for a stone-based metagame in MVCI adds to much of the excitement for the game. Generally in fighting games, there is an optimal way to play a character, and as a result, that character can only be approached in that way. When Combo Fiend said that players will be able to define characters with their own play styles, he was telling the truth. Mechanics like the short hop, which can be performed by cancelling super jumps with down, add layers to the game that allow people to play in the way they want. Stones allow for additional layers. That means if you want to play keep away with Ryu, you can. If you want to rush down with Arthur, it's possible. Self-expression has been lacking from other Capcom titles, so this is a breath of fresh air and a taste of freedom in MVCI, and the gameplay should be set to please all. The next topic is the much maligned graphics, or rather the aesthetics of MVCI. The overall look of MVCI is a huge departure of the Marvel vs series. MVCI has adopted a cinematic, pseudo-realistic style, while previous entries opted to pay homage to the Marvel comics, with UMVC3 taking this to an extreme, and all prior games using 2D sprites, with many characters appearing in a similar fashion to their animated series counterparts or in a comic book style. Once again though, let's start with the weaknesses of MVCI's new look. The first thing that I find really visually displeasing with MVCI are the character portraits. My god, these things look ugly and there is no other way to put it. Most of these just look disproportionate and inhuman, with the biggest offender being Morrigan, who legitimately looks like a creature from a horror movie or some terrible mannequin, and this isn't an easy fix. Capcom needs a full redesign on every character portrait in the game. However, the issues don't end there. The HUD is complete trash. At 10 months into the dev cycle, this thing looks like a placeholder and is devoid of any artistic creativity, using dull color tones and a poorly rendered metallic finish. The health bars are a strain to look at, especially the secondary characters bar, which takes on an even darker tone. The meter bar is also small and unnoticeable and completely fades into anonymity as a result. When you compare these facets to that of UMVC3, which were so vibrant and vivid, and most of the displays being visually pleasing, it's a huge step down. The fonts used on the HUD are another aesthetic crime, with Capcom opting for a boring Arial bold font that looks like it was chosen by a 3rd grader on their first IT class. Once again, referring to UMVC3, the font in that game popped off the screen, very reminiscent of the game's overall comic book feel. Font size increased with combo length to tell you what a good job you'd done bodying opponents, and almost felt like a reward, whereas with MVCI you will need glasses for a mere shoulder pad. The entire HUD needs to be addressed to be more upbeat and fall in line with the cinematic feel, rather than just being a bland eyesore you need to squint at mid-combat. The character select and win screens are both abysmal, just atrocious. While the character select screen does give a good view of the character models, it also assaults you with every character portrait, copy and pasted against a lifeless background of blue for Capcom characters and red for Marvel. Even upon selecting a character, the screen remains devoid of any life, and completion is unnoticeable. While the stone selection is a welcome break from the monotony, the current loading screen, or lack thereof, is even worse. The whole thing screams lazy and unpolished. Capcom need to add more life to the screen to indicate for upcoming battle, have the character model strike a pose, have a character glow when a stone is chosen with the appropriate color. Almost anything would be a welcome break from the current dull state. And the windscreen is worse, a shot of the character models against the stage backdrop from the previous match with a win quote in the game's trademark Arial bold font, before a transition to the ugly character portraits with a set of options against the classic red and blue backdrop. Both things are just tragic. Marvel 3 had a cutaway of all team members in a comic book panel, with the victor uttering a witty speech in a bubble below against a bold maroon backdrop sprinkled with comic book elements, tying in heavily with the game's theme of comic books. Finally, we come to the biggest offender of MVCI's aesthetic qualities, and that's these CGI cutscenes. With disproportionate models and poor renderings, these cutscenes scream college project or fan-made fantasy and cinematic universe. The textures and layering look amateur, with very few industry-level techniques being applied. Much like the portraits, the majority of characters look inhuman and disproportionate, with action sequences being poorly directed and appearing dull and uncomfortable. For scenes that are supposed to be world building and entertaining, they're quite the opposite. And while I'm sure it's too late to redo them, I suggest hitting skip on your MVCI playthrough unless you want nightmares of Chun Li face to haunt you. Though the changes to the game's style has its low points, it also has some strengths, and I want to discuss those as it's not all bad. The character models look polished. Despite Chun's looking CGI, most of the models look good in motion, and the deficiencies don't translate from cutscene to combat. They aid in giving the combat a fluid and dynamic feel, and while they could do with a little more polish, they're generally strong. Captain Marvel and Iron Man, along with X, are great examples of this. With subtle animation here and there, it shows a great deal of care, such as Captain Marvel's waistband fluttering at different speeds based on movement, floating when walking and billowing during dashes. Even the individual attack animations are done well. Even if some are reused, they translate well. Overall, the models are done well. The stages also appear to be well done, being intricately detailed with nods to both universes and really capturing the feel that two worlds have been combined. Even X-Guard, the weakest of the revealed stages, is teeming with detail. The rainbow lines, representing Thor's Bifrost Bridge, have a constant flow in them as if teeming with energy. The carnage and debris indicative of an ongoing battle. The stages actually look great. Valconda, with its huge panther statues, and Darren Moran floating around, give the game a dynamic feel, which is exciting and alive. Now if only we could get that clockwork stage from MVC2, we would be all good. Overall, the stages look good, and I have no problem with them aesthetically. While they could be improved, we shouldn't spend the next 7 years looking at training mode or another Bond Wonderland. Overall, MVCI has its strengths and its weaknesses. It's by no means fantastic, but it's also not the mess it's painted to be. I'd like to thank you all for watching and leave a comment below to let me know what you think of MVCI. Is it gonna fail? Will it succeed? Anyway, that's all for now. Have a great day and peace.